Hello, this is Deborah Clay, author of The Borrowed Boy and Just Be, and presenter of Castaway Books. Each week I invite an author to tell me about the books that have inspired their life and influenced their writing. This week's guest is C. D'Angelo. Hello, I'm delighted to welcome C. D'Angelo to Castaway Books today, especially as CD, as she said I can call her, has just launched her debut, published her debut, The Difference. So that's very exciting. It came out on the 29th of July. So welcome, CD.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited that it's finally in the world.
I think it's like the birth of the first child when you have your debut out there.
I think so. And we call it the book baby. So it must be. I don't have kids, but it must be similar.
The cover is beautiful. I haven't read it yet, but I'm really looking forward to it because I've read the great reviews and it sounds wonderful. So congratulations.
Thank you. That means so much to me.
This can all be part of your launch party.
I know. Yes.
Are you having any other launch things going on?
Well, I had my parties that just happened on the release day, and I have some different bookstagrammers on Instagram lined up for a book tour, and also, interviews and things like that. And then when October comes, I'm going to do a lot again because it's Italian Heritage Month. And since that is the niche that I write about is Italian stories and Italian American stories, I'm going to do another book tour and do a lot more celebrating.
Well, perhaps when we're talking, we can find out why the Italian bit is interesting to you. But we should find out all about that as we hear about
Sure.
So shall we start with your first book choice?
Yes, I'd love to. So first one is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. And I think, it's obviously a very well-known book, but it has personal significance to me. So did you want me to explain a little bit more about that?
Yes, why is it significant to you?
Well, I read that for the first time in ninth grade, and it was just part of the English class curriculum. And that was such a time of freedom for me in my life because I had been in a private school, a really small private school until ninth grade. And when I finally went to public school, it was wonderful for me. I was so excited and I felt like I had so much freedom finally there. And so that book it doesn't make any sense as far as like the material in the book, but it's an association to me in my mind of that's such a happy time. And it was the first book in a really long time, I would say definitely since middle school started, that I was actually interested in because I had to read a bunch of books in middle school I did not like. And so it was this combination. It just felt very magical. Plus, I love that time period and I always had. And so it kind of solidified that for me. That's the only book I have read more than twice, I would say, in my life. I love it. I could read it every week. I don't know why. I just love it.
What do you say? I was going to say, what is it about it? But you just said you're not sure why.
Yeah. It's that stuff that I just said, obviously, but then also there's just, like I said, there's something magical about it to me. It's a classic for a reason, I would say. And it is just the emotion in it is what gets me. I'm a very sensitive, emotional person. And it's like oozing in every scene in there. And you're just like, your heart is breaking, spoiler alert, for the character of Gatsby and what happens at the end. And so it just sucks me in every time. And then of course now there's, movies. And then in the 2000s, it had kind of a resurgence, I think, because the 2020s were coming, although the year didn't live up to that.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. It's like, all of it now, all of it's come together.
So you're saying you moved from a public school to a private school? No, what was the school you were going to before you moved up?
It was a private Lutheran school, and so I was there from kindergarten through 8th grade. And as I went on in the years, the class size got smaller to where in 8th grade it was, I think, 14 of us, something like that. So I was just ready to make some new friends. I mean, they were great, but I wanted just like to expand, make some new friends, be in a bigger environment. And I am a shy person, but at the same time, I really felt like I was, kind of trapped, and I needed something new to go to.
Do you think, CD, when you're in, I've found this with my daughter, and I think it was the same for myself, when you're in school and you've got very few people you're with, there aren't always the people that you can identify with. So I think lots of people feel outsiders, because if you're in a very small group of children, you're unlikely to find somebody who feels that they are like you and have things in common. And the bigger the pool and the more people, the more likely you are to find people you're kindred spirits or similar to you. I think that's quite difficult when children are growing up with small group, within very small schools or small communities.
That is very true. I was very lucky though, because in my neighborhood, I made a best friend who is still one of my 2 best friends till this day. And so I'm really bad at math, but I think it's almost 35 years, maybe, I don't know, it might be 25. I'm not sure, but since I was 10 and I'm in my 40s. And so, yeah, so she was who I was with a lot of the time when middle school years were here. And we were, quirky and wacky together, and we still are.
Oh, that's lovely. How wonderful to have a friend from childhood. It's special, isn't it?
Yes, and my other best friend I made in 9th grade. And so, again, so long. It's really special to have those friends who knew you back then and who know so much about you, and know your parents and know everything.
When you grow up like that, it's almost like sharing your roots with someone, isn't it? Like you're part of the same, I don't know, shrub or something, because you have so much in common. You've got a point of reference that you share that goes so deep.
Yeah, they get it. I don't have to explain much about any kind of dynamics to them from the family or anything like that. And then their parents became kind of my second parents, which is nice.
Yeah, it's lovely. Okay, so should we go on to your second choice?
Sure. Yeah, my second one. Okay, it's kind of interesting we're saying this, because my second one, we're going to jump to when I was an undergrad in college, and reading Prep by Curtis Sittenfeld, because we're talking about the outsider thing. And that is something I definitely felt, and especially in middle school. I mean, like many people, I was bullied and things like that. A lot of us go through that. But it was pretty rough for me during those years. And so by college, high school was great. By college, it was great. But this book, Prep, just really touched a chord in me, because the main character felt like an outsider going to this elite boarding school in the Northeast. And so, number one, I am from Connecticut originally, so there's that little tie, because in the book it's Massachusetts, even though I've lived in Florida since I was literally 5 weeks old. But still, my family's there and everything. That's really in my roots. But then also the outsider thing, and then me going to a private school and just kind of knowing what that's like a little bit, although not a, wealthy boarding school. And so it really struck me with those things. But my favorite part of it is I felt like I was inside the character's head. I was reading every little thought and intricacy, and that fascinated me. I had never read a book like that, and I loved it. And so instantly, Curtis Sittenfeld was one of my very favorite authors. Contemporary of Scott Fitzgerald is my classic favorite author. So when I wrote,
does he write first person or third person close?
Actually, it's a female author. And yes, I believe it was in first person, although that's kind of funny. I'd have to go and see. I'm pretty sure it has to be if it was written like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'd have to go and look after this because it's been a while since I've read that one now. But it really influenced me for how I wanted to write this book, The Difference, which I have in front of me for those of you who can't see it. I didn't know I wanted to be an author back then, but I had like this flash of, wow, if I ever wrote a book, that's what I would want to do. And I hope that I have. And one review did say they felt like they were reading my main character's personal journal. So that is like, that's epic to me, you know?
That's a great achievement, and it's really good to find a book that does that well. I shall have to read that one, and your one, of course. So when did you think about becoming a writer? Was that part of your ambitions at that age when you were at college?
Not at all. By day, I'm a therapist for mental health, and that was all that I was doing. And I still am, and I love it. I've been doing that for 20 years. It's really a huge part of my identity. And so I wouldn't, you know, even if I become a successful, famous author someday, which of course I would hope, I still would want to do a couple hours of therapy a week. I love it. So no, I didn't think about writing until this story came to me. And I just thought, you know what? I have to try that. I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to write. It's just another artistic expression for me. And I do a lot. As you can see in the background, I even have my ukulele up here in the wall, on the wall.
We're very fortunate. I'm in a similar position to you in that I'm older than you, but I've had a wonderful career in the NHS and health and social care, and absolutely loved it. And so writing for me is just like an icing on the cake to now be experiencing a second career, or not second, probably about fourth career as an author is wonderful. But I was very, very fulfilled working in the NHS as well.
Yes, exactly. So you get it. Yep.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And you bring so much more to your writing as a result of it.
I think so. I mean, because I really know people. As far as, you know, maybe little physical movements they would make, like the path within maybe an emotional journey, things like that. And I think it obviously influences my writing, and it helps a lot.
I absolutely get that. I find that I say to people, is because this is how I see it, because in the latter part of my career, I was writing, until very recently, domestic homicide reviews and safeguarding adult reviews. And I've always, as a management consultant, my role has been very much listening to people who are experiencing adversity for different reasons, and properly hearing them and making sure that I give them voice when I represent them, or write reports, or, you know, developing policy, that I'm reflecting back what I have heard from them. So when you absorb all those things, you don't sort of replicate their stories, but these voices are all, for me, they're all in my head, and it sort of comes out through my writing as a sense of release, because you've been so close by listening and walking alongside people at these difficult stages in their life, that it's bound to come out through your writing, because it's kind of therapeutic for us to write it as well.
Exactly. I can't agree with anything you said more. I mean, I love how you say walking along on their journey, and then yes, we can apply it to our characters.
Mm-hmm. I look forward to reading yours. I keep saying that. I'm getting more and more enthusiastic to read.
Oh, good. Thank you. I'd be honored.
So shall we go on to your third book?
Okay, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berendt. I don't know if that's how you say it, but hopefully. This I read, I can't remember if it was when I was in graduate school or right after graduate school, but my last year of graduate school, I was traveling a lot to a close by city where my now husband was working. And then I moved there after college, after graduate school. So that place is Jacksonville, Florida. And that is a city where it's pretty close to Savannah, Georgia. Oh my gosh, did I say Jacksonville, Georgia? I hope I didn't say Jacksonville, Georgia. Jacksonville, Florida, near Savannah, Georgia. Okay, I hope I got that right.
You did. You got it right.
Good. So it's about 2.5 hours away, and we traveled up there a lot, and I discovered how much I love Savannah, and it inspired me I think it inspired me to read the book. And then once I read the book, every time we go there, the book is everywhere, and because it's set there, and it's just so ingrained in the culture there, and it just made me want to read it again. And it's a wonderful book, mysterious, and just really thrilling, and about the Southern culture and all of those things. I think are a perfect magical recipe, and I love it.
I was looking up about the book before I'm talking to you, and it's fascinating. It's am I right in thinking it's based on a real murder?
Yes.
And what I found interesting was the sort of cast of characters, which are based on real characters, and yet it sounds like so unlikely. So it was interesting to me about the community that's described.
Yes, I think that's probably part of why it was such a big book. I would think it's mind-boggling, that this happened, and that then this author can write a book that's fictionalized but based so in truth. And then you think, well, what is true in this? And it makes you kind of want to look up things. Back at the time that I was reading it, that was, I want to say, about 2002 through 2003 kind of time period. It like Googling everything wasn't a big thing. And so probably if I were to read it again now, I'd be searching things as I read it. Maybe that's not a bad idea now.
But the community own it, obviously, because it's on everything and everywhere. And I think it was made into a film, you said, as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I would have thought they would feel uncomfortable about being known for a murder.
I know, but not Savannah. Savannah they pride themselves on being kind of a spooky little Southern town. It's a really beautiful place, and they do a lot with like ghost tours and just anything kind of spooky and otherworldly. So it fits right in there.
So they have festivals there. I could think it'd be a perfect place for festivals and things. No,
I think they do a little bit. I don't remember when I was living in Jacksonville, we didn't go to any or anything like that, but they definitely do one for St. Patrick's Day, which is not at all spooky, but they do a big celebration there for some reason for St. Patrick's Day.
Sounds bizarre.
It is, and that's why I love it.
Brilliant. Okay, so you didn't say what you were doing around that time in your life. Oh, you met your husband, you said. That's interesting. What was he doing?
Yeah. He graduated undergraduate at the same college that I went to for undergraduate and graduate. So I was still there, and then he moved to Jacksonville to start his career. And I'm so sorry, there was a doorbell. And so then I stayed there, finished one more year, and then moved to Jacksonville. And then he went to grad school later.
What's he doing now?
He's a corporate risk manager. So a totally different field, very businessy, all about insurance and things like that.
I wonder if it was in the same similar field to you, but
No, definitely not. No, he would hate writing and therapy, and yes, he would not do it. We're opposite in that way.
It's funny how we find our partners, and they can be so opposite. My husband is opposite to me in every way. If you look to us as compatibility on a data computing thing or system, everything that we like is the opposite, really. But then maybe we're different, and we kind of just fit together, but we're opposites.
It's really interesting. Yeah, we should write novels about that.
Yeah, that's right. Because yes, if I had somebody who was similar to me, I probably wouldn't be so attracted to them, because I've got all those things myself. Why would I want somebody else to have a mirror of me? I want somebody who's different. And you learn and grow from each other when you're different too.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. I think having the same morals and values and different aspects like that are very needed, but not maybe, like I like writing, he would run away if he had to write. Like, that's fine.
Interests are healthy to be different, but you're quite right, having the same value system is absolutely crucial. Yeah.
Yep, I think so.
Couldn't be involved with anybody who wasn't kind, compassionate, and generous.
Yes,
And
definitely.
my husband's all of those things in spades.
Mine too. We're very lucky.
Okay, so shall we go on to your fourth book?
Yes, Confessions of a Shopaholic by Sophie Kinsella. All my books are very different, I know.
Good.
But oh gosh, she's another one of my favorite contemporary authors, but a whole different kind of vibe than Curtis Sittenfeld. If you haven't read any of her books, she has a whole series on the Shopaholic series, and it's just this quirky young girl that is trying to make it big, and it's set in England actually, and some of the other books in the series are set in different cities, but based in England basically. And she's just hilarious. She has a spending problem, so she's always trying to get out of debt and things like that. It's just really quirky and silly and out of the box. Her writing style sucks me in. I love it. So I read that. Let me think. Definitely I was in the working world, like solidly in the working world. I can't even give you a year or anything like that. I think it was out for a few years, and she had already written a few other books in the series. And then I was like, oh gosh, okay, this looks really cute. I'm going to read this, and was hooked immediately. But it's such a joy and such an escape from reality, and it's just the cutest. I suggest reading all of the books in that series.
And I haven't read any of them, so I might well do, because it has come up as a choice for a few people now on my island. So that means I've got to read that.
Yes, definitely. Actually, this one and then the next book I'll talk about, I used as comps for this book, The Difference, that I just wrote, because of different reasons. Sophie Kinsella's quirkiness is a lot of what I have in my main character. And so I like to kind of, keep it fresh in that way. And so I think that that's a similarity. Again, when I say anything like that, like I would never compare myself to these amazing, amazing authors, but I think that, you have to give people an idea of kind of what style you're in. And so it's kind of in that kind of quirky little vibe.
I was going to say to explain that, but you did, because not everybody who watches this program will know about what a comp means. And it's when you're putting your book out there, it's to let potential readers know books they could compare it to know what they would enjoy, isn't it?
Exactly, yes. And it's very hard for me because I don't want to ever offend, or I don't know. I mean, comparing yourself to someone huge is really hard, when you're just starting out, but you have to pick somebody.
Well, they all started out somewhere.
Exactly. We were all first-time authors at some point.
Somebody will be comparing themselves to you, to C. D'Angelo one day. Definitely.
Oh, that would be the biggest compliment ever. I hope so.
I'll tell you a wonderful story is, I won't say who it is, but my writing buddy and best friend locally, I mean, we spent a lot of time together. We were writing our books at the same time. We were going out to agents at the same time. We were sweating over our agent letters, all the angst together. And recently, when I was looking at guidance on writing agents' letters yet again, I think I was looking to pass it to somebody else, and I saw an example of an agent's letter, and they said, writes a bit like, and they gave the name of my friend, who's now an international best-selling author. And I said to her,
oh my gosh.
I said, if you had seen this those couple of years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, when we were angsting, you wouldn't have believed it, that somebody would be comparing themselves to you when we were
Yes, that's unbelievable. I love that.
I know.
All struggling writers need to hear that story.
She would never have believed it. And and every international best-selling author, all the big authors have all got their story about when they weren't there and they were struggling, and there's journey. So we're all on a similar journey, just different points in it.
Definitely.
Okay, so on to your fifth book. I feel like I've missed something out, what you were doing then, actually. But
I'm just working as a therapist. That's what I do by day still. And it's nothing too significant that I can remember around that time. Just working and reading.
They're just working. Your work's fascinating, and I want you to talk about it particularly. But do you work for an organisation or for yourself?
I do. I work at a university. So at a counseling center with that kind of college population, and the ages can vary, but it's mostly about, I'd say, 18 to 22. And I love it. It's a joy to be with that population.
Oh, but they love having you there.
Oh, thank you. I hope so.
Great to them, I'm sure. Okay, so should we go on to your fifth book?
Okay, the fifth one, Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I actually saw the movie before I read the book. I know it's a major faux pas in this world of writing, but that's what happened. And it stuck with me. Just the feeling of it is what I loved. It was, it's a great storyline, but it's more of that emotional journey that the character went on. Not the character, it was actually nonfiction. It was Elizabeth Gilbert writing about herself and her own journey. But it really gave me this feeling of hope and inspiration, and it stuck with me. And so, not associated with that, but eventually I had this idea for The Difference come to me, and I had that same kind of feeling of, I want to write about a character's emotional journey and inspire hope in people, basically. And so I just always knew it had to be with that kind of vibe, that kind of feeling. And that's what I set out to do. And so far people are telling me that is what they get from it. Later, after I wrote this book, I did read Eat, Pray, Love finally. And I did use that book also as a comp, again, comparing yourself to an author to try to give people an understanding of what your book reads like. And I did it as far as the feeling and the writing style, which was a very big surprise to me, because she writes novels also, but she writes very conversational, very relatable stories. And I think, and have been told, that that's how my writing is as well. So she's kind of my biggest comp, I would say, as an author, but I adore all that she does. And as a person, she's just so much fun to follow on social media and everything. So yeah, that's a big one for me. And that came along later in life. Whenever the movie came out, I probably watched it a little bit later, and then years later, the book. Read the book.
I think I might prefer the book to the movie, because the movie, Julia Roberts is great. She's a lovely actress and she's beautiful, but she's Julia Roberts. And I think it might feel a bit more authentic reading the book than trying to imagine Julia Roberts in that role. Because for me, she's just sort of Julia Roberts.
Right. I can understand that. Yeah. It's interesting that I like the movie so much and also love the book, because usually that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like, I gotta say, I wouldn't watch Confessions of a Shopaholic, the movie. It's not really that great. I love the books though. So it's usually like that for people. I think that's pretty common. The book is like, oh, I love it. And the movie's like, oh, it's just okay,
I was just doing a recap about Eat, Pray, Love in preparation for this interview, and it reminded me about the significance of the different countries. So she went to the author, Elizabeth, was going through a bit of a crisis, wasn't she? So she decided to go to 3 different countries to have one question of self-exploration. And the first one, she went to Italy, which was renowned, they said, for its for indulgence with food and things. Now, this picks up, I said earlier, we want to find out why you were interested in Italy. So is there a connection for you with Italy?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so I'm a second generation person descended from people from Italy, and I grew up in all of the different culture aspects. So the music, the food, the, you know, like the language, even my grandpa would communicate in Italian to his family still there. And I didn't know what he was saying, but I mean, just you're surrounded by it. And of course, all the values and different ways that we would do things. And I think it's very similar to a lot of cultures, but of course, I know being Italian. And so when I thought about this story, again, it just came to me, it really felt important to tie in that heritage. And the story is very loosely related to my grandpa's journey of being an Italian immigrant. And so I thought, okay, you know, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to, you know, just really get ingrained in the Italian culture for everything I do as an author. And it's been really great as far as a response on all of my social media. That is what I post about. That's my niche now. It's all about family and Italy and ancestry and, you know, anything involved in those areas, with very relatable, like universally relatable stories, I would say, to most cultures as well.
Wonderful. I love Italy. Absolutely adore it. My husband and I travel a lot, but Italy is the place that we love the most, so much so that he's been learning Italian for about the last 10 years, because he always says we're going to buy somewhere out there sometime. And if it hadn't been for the pandemic, we might have been at that point of buying a place in Italy. It's put it off a little bit now, but we'll see. I think it's been his dream for so long. We'll have to do it.
Yes, me too, by the way. So I hope you achieve that dream.
Have you got a favorite part of Italy?
Oh, that's so hard because it's so different everywhere you go. I will say I've been to Venice twice, and it's just so unique that I would probably choose that. Now, I wouldn't want to live there, honestly. I would live more in the South, but I'm in awe of going everywhere on a boat. It's just amazing. I mean, like, that's like a dream world. You're just traveling around on a boat, no cars, you know, in the central part. But yeah, I love and adore it there. I mean, I'll never forget the feeling when I got off the train, we walked out, and you're right there on the Grand Canal, and there's all the boats going by and everything. You're just like in this dream world.
I love Venice. I had a marvelous couple of weeks there when I was asked to present a paper at a European conference, and it was on San Savola Island. I've got the right name of the island, but it was an island that used to be a mental health institution. So now I have these little islands, and there were walls all around it. So it was sort of the inmates, as they were then in the 50s or 60s, were all secluded onto this island. Well, it obviously is no more. And now they've changed it into a sort of conference centre that's used a lot, I think, by health and social care professionals. Anyway, so I was speaking at this conference there, and I was allowed to bring my husband. Partners were allowed to stay. So he had every day wandering around Venice doing his own thing. And then I was allowed to stay on for an extra week. And there was nobody else there on this island in this conference place. We had this island to ourselves, really.
Wow.
Catering place. And it was wonderful. We just spent every day just wandering. So I had a lovely 2 weeks there after I did my little paper. That was it. It was fantastic.
I love that. Oh, I'm going to have to look that up. That's so interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's called San Savola. I'm going to be embarrassed this is recorded. I haven't got the name right. If my husband was here, he would tell me. I always think he's like my hard drive. All the stuff I don't need to remember is in his head. So I just have to ask him things, and he tells me. That or Google. And neither of them.
He's your Google.
He's my Google.
It's so funny. I love it.
And I love Tuscany and Florence and Rome. Oh, it's all beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to choose. Even thinking of where you would actually want to live, I don't know. But I think the South. I'm in Florida. I'm used to more hot weather, and I know it does get cold there in the winter and all, but I need it hot. So I probably should be down there. And it's just so beautiful down there.
Oh. So on Eat, Pet, Pray, Loves, she went to Italy for the all of the indulgence, wasn't it, with the food and everything. And then she went to India for prayer and meditation. And then she went to Bali to find the balance between the material and the spiritual. So that was really interesting.
Yes, yes. We should all be able to go on a journey like that, right? That would be amazing.
I've been to India and I've been to Bali. Yay.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have to come travel with you.
I'm very fortunate. I've traveled a lot. It's great. Very lucky.
Yeah.
But I loved Bali, beautiful. And I loved India. My only frustration is that I went to India. I was actually on a cruise and I had 4 or 5 days in different parts of India. Fell in love with it. My husband's from India. He was born in India. And then we had the pandemic the year later. So I haven't been able to go back. And I don't know when I'll be able to go back. And I just would love to.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I hope soon that things can try to get back to normal.
I was traveling around with my husband. He'll say things like, oh, yes, when I was a child, we'd buy this at the roadside. And there's all these different memories that he has. So it's just good to share it with him finally.
Yes, definitely. I love traveling. That's why I do integrate that into my books too.
Yeah.
I armchair travel.
And I think during this period, since the pandemic, any books that include travel have been really popular because people can't travel to read about different countries and holidays and adventure. It's what we're all craving.
I think so too. Definitely. Yep. I miss all the travel because we like to travel too a lot. Yeah.
Okay, that's fascinating. And while we're talking about luxuries, my final question to you, what would you take on the island as your luxury? Have you given that any thought?
Yes, I need music. So I don't know what kind of device would work on an island, but whatever that would be, I don't know. I listen to most on my phone now, but I don't know about taking a phone, but something music-wise. But if we're in a dream world, I'll say my phone then.
Give you a magic musical box with all the music on it.
That's what I need. I need the music. Yeah.
You can dance then to it, can't you? Can soothe you when you need it, and you can dance when you want to dance.
Definitely. I'm always singing and thinking of song lyrics for a song that makes sense of the moment. And, you know, just like I think a lot musically. I've always played instruments and everything like that.
Oh, excellent. Well, that's absolutely fascinating. I'm only sorry that our conversation's come to an end because I could talk to you all afternoon, but my recording might not allow me to. So I have to say goodbye now. And thank you very much for joining me on my island, CD.
Thank you. It was so much fun to talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this week's episode of Castaway Books. References for all of the books discussed in this show can be found on my website, which is www.abrakdeborah.wordpress.com. It's the letter K and then my name, Deborah, Deborah. So until next week, goodbye.